everybody who listen this podcast, you and other people, they are not protected, because how many these kind of cases, known cases happening? You can be not aware that your all financial travel data is weaponized or became a honeypot for somebody. For this reason, we want to develop these remedies, both from the technical side, so tech developers, privacy developers aware about it. From other side, we were looking for solutions in the side of regulatory. We need to close these loopholes. We need to cut off ability to create even more and more complication and gathering in one spot of data. It's really dangerous right now.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Stefan Livera podcast, brought to you by Bold. For American listeners, you can buy Bitcoin over at getbold.io. Now, rejoining me on the show is Luda. Luda is the president and founder of Open Dialogue Foundation. President, right?
Yes, and founder too.
Gotcha.
Initiator.
Great. And so, of course, I know you're doing a lot of work in terms of advocacy for Bitcoin, and I know you were really interested to talk a little bit about what's going on recently in things like FATF and AML and some of these aspects of it. So just set the ground for us here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stefan, for inviting me. I think it's a very important moment because, as you know, the story of Foundation Defending Human Rights is quite long. We're doing it for 15 years. And during these 15 years, every time we exposing different instruments, sophisticated instruments, regimes are able to use against Western civilizations to prosecute citizens, activists, and dissidents, those who criticize them or just uncomfortable for them. And at the same time, we exposing right now how American interest, national security can be easily weaponized because of produced long time ago Financial Action Task Force framework on combating money laundering or fighting extremist terrorist activities, or right now one of the most favorite tool how to steal your travel data, financial data, communication data. It's weaponization of cyber security laws. And this is something what is not you can find in normal media. It's not discussed much in conferences. And I think it's really important to raise awareness, build community, ask technical developers to find more and more sophisticated tools how to respond to it before we find any kind of solution and educate regulators, legislators to stop this madness. And as always, I want to be very specific. We don't take our quotes or statements out of the blue. We unfortunately also experience the next wave of different kind of repression because of our human rights work. And this was specifically targeting us in the US soil. Why? So secret agents of Kazakhstan in cooperation with former secret agent of France tried to, an alleged criminal case against me and Foundation, steal my travel data, communication data, and financial data on the US soil. They fabricated criminal charges in me, saying that I committed cybersecurity crime. And in fact, I was recording, just like we're chatting right now, testimonies of victims of torture, hundreds of victims of torture. Those who actually testified the names of perpetrators, especially those who were cooperating with Russian troops before they invaded to Ukraine. So there was in January 2022, mass shooting and torture in Kazakhstan. Over 10,000 of people were arrested. So I was doing this recording, being in US and also being in Belgium. So those secret agents, they pretend to be ordinary citizens and said that their children crying watching these testimonies of victims of tortures. That's why it's cybersecurity crime. And that's why all this testimony has to be deleted. And that's why this travel data, communication data, the way how I'm leading my team being in the US or while I'm traveling, my financial data, all hotels, all cross-border movements like airports in US, I was in Washington, in Miami, and also in Europe, in Brussels and in other countries. So they wanted to get this data. And you would be surprised that normally this data in this kind of accusation, in order to protect children, in order to stop cybersecurity crime, it's shared automatically. This is what is dangerous. There is no remedy. And this is something where I want to raise awareness, so all of us, we understand that if you live in US, if you're a US entity, if you're doing business, if you're charity, if you donate, you actually can be this kind of exposure. And there is no remedies right now how to protect your travel, financial, and private communication data. And this is why we right now doing a lot of meetings we've done since March, April, and May, over 100 of meetings with US legislators and regulators across political groups, together with economic inclusion groups, Freedom Foundation of Kazakhstan, and other organizations. So we explaining what consequences this weaponization of FATF recommendations bring for civil society, US citizens, US allies, US charities and businesses. And it's not only about even just, like people who are doing activities slightly on US, but for example, US investors in other jurisdictions, they also became a target for this kind of weaponization of anti-money laundering or counterterrorism regulations, or for example, cybersecurity laws. And this is something we have to change. We right now have all instruments for this. So I really admire how active Bitcoiners in US. Let's join efforts and make these things happen. Especially because we have right now two legislative initiatives, FIRM Act and also Act on Transnational Repression. We want to introduce a specific term like transnational financial repression, which exactly means how FATF, Financial Action Task Force recommendations, weaponized by third countries to undermine rule of law, national security, financial integrity, all of the things which actually was this organization saying that these two created, but in fact, they undermine our rights. And this is what we have to address and stop and freeze, find, of these organizations as possible.
Got it. Okay, so let me just summarize. There was a lot in that, but let me try to summarize as I understand it, that you are speaking also out of, what's happened to you personally and to your organization, Open Dialogue Foundation, but in general, that, let's say, FATF and AML rules have kind of created this mechanism that can be weaponized by people to, let's say, go after certain individuals or organizations to try to shut them down or to hinder their work by using, let's say, this AML control. And I guess what you're talking about is to sort of coin this term, or at least popularize this term, transnational financial repression. So can you explain a bit about what exactly is transnational financial repression? So
transnational financial repression, when another states basically want to cut off your any kind of means for existing, when you cannot use financial instruments, bank accounts, you terminated services, or somebody from financial institutions refuse to open your account. It can be also crypto asset services providers when they also cannot have business with you. It also can be when, for example, some country or entity like bank or any kind of company starts to prosecute you, to drain you financially with abusive criminal or civil complaint on the other territories. So they weaponize international agreements, like state-to-state agreements, to basically block your activities, to steal your, for example, business data, your tech data, your human rights data, communication data, travel data, everything what you generate and what presents interest for those third parties, they actually can weaponize against you in order to cut off your ability to function, to do business, to do your activities. And
interesting.
Important instruments. Why it's possible? Because between the states right now, there is assumption, there is a trust. So US trust Belgium the same how they trust to Kazakhstan, or the same how they trust to African country. This is the platform built by Financial Action Task Force. So all states has to trust to itself. And of course, what we see right now, that those countries, they are doing it one side. So all Western democracies, US, they are transparent for all authoritarian states, which is majority in the world. It means that every citizen of Western countries, especially US, which is right now the most focus of, for many reasons, for geopolitical reasons, it's a target. It's easy target because there is innovation, because there is human rights issues, because there is different kind of political tensions, right? So you can be easily become target, and there is a tool which you cannot stop. My situation, I know about it and I was able to document it because I have special protection in Belgium. Because of my previous story, which I overcome this transnational repression back in the last 15 years, organized in total by 7 authoritarian regimes, historically, right? The judges and police in Belgium, they did a special investigation and they found out that this secret agent of Kazakhstan, in cooperation with former French secret agent, the goal was to actually collect all my travel financial data and communication data. And that's why they said that it's abuse of these important instruments. They wanted to abuse the judicial system of Belgium to get my financial travel and communication data from US. And normally this data is transformed immediately. But because I have a quite significant track record of different attacks against me, they protected me. But it means that everybody who listens this podcast, you and other people, they are not protected, because how many these kind of cases, known cases happening? You can be not aware that your all financial travel data is weaponized or became a honeypot for somebody. So for this reason, we want to develop these remedies, both from the technical side, so tech developers, privacy developers are aware about it. From other side, we were looking for solutions in the side of regulatory. We need to close these loopholes. We need to cut off ability to create even more and more complication and gathering in one spot of data, like know your clients, right? It's really dangerous right now. You see what's happening in France. You see how it's easy to target Bitcoiners, crypto assets holders, when you don't able to use mixers, other privacy instruments, because they banned, because exactly institution which opened the door for this kind of attacks, like Financial Action Task Force, name privacy tools for Bitcoin payments or any kind of privacy tools as a tool potentially for illicit activities, which is discouraging investment in these tools, which is encouraging to stop using these tools, and more, I would say, overregulation for those who provide these services, develop these services, or invest in these services, invest in our privacy and defending us. So it's really important to know about it and to prevent this kind of developments.
Back to the show in a moment. This show brought to you by CoinKite.com, the creators of the best Bitcoin hardware security devices, such as the Coldcard Mark IV and the new Coldcard Q. Now, we use Bitcoin hardware security devices to keep our keys offline, our private keys offline. Now, the way these work is you can do that setup, write down your 12 or 24 words on the seed word cards, and keep that secure. Now, you can use this device to interact with the Bitcoin network using software such as Sparrow Wallet, Electrum, or Vector Desktop, or Nunchuck as a few examples. Now, you have a range of security features that you can use with these devices, such as passphrases, you can use seed XOR, or my favorite is multi-signature. Now, if you're starting in a basic way, just start with the device and the USB-C cable, plug it directly to the computer and use it that way, and then later improve your setup. But I believe these devices are great at helping secure your coins, especially as you start to migrate up into multi-signature security. But don't be disheartened or don't be scared away. They are accessible, and I think you actually do learn about Bitcoin in the process. So to get yours, go to coinkite.com, use code Livera to get a discount on your cold card. This episode is brought to you by Galloy, builders of banking software for the Bitcoin age. After years of risk and uncertainty, Bitcoin and banking are colliding. The regulatory environment is rapidly shifting in favor of Bitcoin and digital assets. Fintechs and crypto-native companies can become chartered banks, and traditional banks and credit unions will launch Bitcoin products. But the legacy core banking software that many financial institutions run on wasn't built for Bitcoin. The Galloy banking infrastructure stack delivers all the key elements of a modern core banking platform with cloud-native infrastructure, event-based architecture, and robust APIs coming together to meet the security, scalability, and reliability needs of banks of the future. Whether you are launching a modern financial institution from the ground up, or you are adding Bitcoin-backed lending or payments to your product offering, talk to the team at Galloy. Visit galloy.io or reach out to the team at biz@galloy.io. Okay, yeah. So, in other words, the fact that there are these centralized points that some of our information passes through, it's now being leveraged by people in other states to try to get information on you if you're doing something that they don't like. And I guess this is where obviously privacy advocates are going to be really naturally very interested in this. So if you're a privacy advocate, you should be listening and sharing this out there with people so they understand there are some of these risks. Obviously, some of the things in Bitcoin land that have happened, or Bitcoin and crypto land, the recent big revelation with Coinbase that basically a lot of the KYC data of their customers had been either leaked, or Coinbase employees overseas had been bribed to give up that information. So that's one big thing. And then obviously the other big thing, as I'm sure you know, and probably many listeners, is in recent months there have been some of these kidnapping attempts against known Bitcoin and crypto entrepreneurs, investors, and people like this. And so, as you say, it's that this overarching environment of FATF, AML laws, sanctions laws have kind of pushed this down to each, nation state level, and let's say at the EU level, to sort of say, hey, you need to do this much KYC and all this sort of thing. And also it's created this environment, as you said, where it seemed like any use of privacy techniques like coin joins, mixers, and things like that are either, in some cases, outright illegal or very much frowned upon. And so it's effectively leveraging, let's say, the compliance department of banks and crypto exchanges and virtual asset, providers, service providers, to sort of leverage all of their compliance resources to sort of say, hey, you need to use chain surveillance or chain analysis kinds of tools. You need to start frowning on anybody using any kind of privacy technique. And so on one side, they've sort of forced everyone to dox all their details to certain centralized providers. And they've also kind of restrained, it's like effectively holding your arms behind your back and stopping you from using any kind of privacy techniques, which can also be leveraged against us by actual literal criminals.
Yes, and to be specific, I will bring you an example of one American investor, a very successful investor in the past, who was crushed because of abuse of anti-money laundering countries regulation and transnational repression. So case of Barlik Mendagaziyev, our philanthropist, very well-known person in Kazakhstan. He's American investor, but with Kazakhstani roots. His family is US citizens. They live in North Carolina and Charlotte. They have a charity, they have business. And they would dare to refuse to pay bribery. It's been successful company working with Chevron in Kazakhstan. And because of this, and also supporting families of political prisoners with small donations, paying for their legal aids, they became a target of this transnational repression. So State Department confirmed in 3 annual reports on human rights that this family was transnationally repressed. And Kazakhstan was looking different instruments, how to cut off their funds, how to destroy this family because of their activities. And they found out how to do it on US soil. Again, with abuse of anti-money laundering regulation, they sent a special request. They knew, thanks to support of special lobbyists, that in case of request of mutual legal assistance, when state to state send requests and claiming falsely, no evidences, no court here, nothing, that this person is involved in money laundering or extremist activity or whatever linked with financial crimes and extremist activities, that would open opportunity to close bank accounts, to freeze assets, to destroy business, destroy charity activity, and make life impossible both for 2 daughters of Barlik Mendagaziyev, his wife, and himself, being absolutely legitimate, investor, American investor, and a U.S. resident and citizens in North Carolina. And this is an example of what can happen with you. And when we say about the nations from his side, it's like some hundreds of dollars to support families of political prisoners. It's nothing. But it shows if somebody is really pissed off on you, if somebody wants to make you harm, there is no protection, no remedies right now existing for U.S. citizens and residents. And this is what I'm going to say also in U.S. Congress. I'm raising this, I will testify on this issue on 24th of June in Washington, because I believe this is a matter of national security, and these standards from US, where Financial Action Task Force are writing them, they afterwards spread globally. So that's why I'm saying that all Western civilization following this in other countries, they just unfortunately very much exposed for this kind of abuses. We cannot trust authoritarian states. It has to be stopped. And privacy tools has to be protected. Bitcoin transactions right now are the only instrument you can use in authoritarian states, but facilitators of these transactions, because of this wording and blaming, labeling by Financial Action Task Force that these facilitators are facilitators for illicit activities, not facilitators for freedom tech, right? They are also on huge prosecution. And the same with Bitcoin ATMs, everything unfortunately linked with this negative regulatory language. We have to change it. And we have to stop, this spreading of disinformation, because it's said, these laws, that they want to protect us. In fact, what we see in reality, it's undermine our protection, undermine our travel privacy, our communication privacy, our financial privacy. And it's very dangerous.
It seems, kind of concerning all around the world. I mean, there's lots of different things, but as an example, and I'm sure a lot of Bitcoiners are familiar with these examples, the obvious one being like the Canada trucker example with the protests, people who made donations to that, some of them had their accounts shut down. There was a famous case a few years ago, Nigel Farage had his account shut down. The Trump family have been very open about this as well from their perspective, that they were kind of getting a lot of their accounts shut down. Life was being made very hard for them. So I think certainly a lot of Bitcoin people have sympathy here, and they either personally have it happen to them, or friends of theirs have had their accounts shut down for all kinds of reasons. And because of all these compliance laws that are in the background, sometimes these compliance staff at exchanges and banks can't even tell them why. They'll say, hey, we're shutting your account down because whatever. And that's it. We don't want to do business with you anymore. Of course, it's good to be able to use Bitcoin, but we still don't live in the total Bitcoin standard. So there's a lot of times where people still have to make fiat payments, or they may need to sell Bitcoin to fiat to be able to make their rent payment or whatever, or to pay staff. And so I guess that's sort of where we are. From a Bitcoin perspective, Bitcoin services, who are the people who you see most impacted here? Like you mentioned Bitcoin ATMs. Is it Bitcoin exchanges? Is it people who want to offer card services for Bitcoiners? What are some of the Bitcoin products and services that are impacted?
I would say entire network. It's both customers and, from my perspective, they get exactly for the reason as you said, right? You can of course say that I don't care, Bitcoin don't care, but the moment when your data became a honeypot for some hackers and you became a target, you will start to care. And I don't want this moment actually to come true, right? So we need to be preemptive in this regard. And we can. We need to defend our industry. We need to defend our facilitators of transactions. So when I say facilitators of transactions, it's those who are actually helping people to do exchange of cash to Bitcoin and back, because activists, everybody, I think for the moment still need to be able to go cash and back to Bitcoin as a tool for transaction, as a tool for exchange. And this is something extremely important. And one of the most comfortable, of course, in the past instrument for this, it was ATMs. Right now, for example, in Europe and many other jurisdictions following this pattern, and they recognize ATM as a tool also for illicit activities. They try to stop cash spread, and they at the same time to stop ability to use exchange Bitcoin directly to cash, and they limit also this ability. So there is even limit 1,000 of euros. Everything above is considered to be potentially abusive, or you have to do additional reporting, which makes business impossible to conduct because of this compliance cost. So there is no reasoning for this. If we see the reality, if anybody wants to steal new technologies from US, if somebody wants to know everything about, let's say, developers or AI developers or whatever, sensitive information, they can get it through third parties, through different kind of governments, paying nothing and weaponizing cybersecurity laws or anti-money laundering regulation. And there is no remedies.
Now, I guess one point people might push back on you here, just to understand, maybe you can help explain how this goes down. So as an example, this foreign agent in some other country, unrelated to the country of your citizenship or the country that you were traveling in, he's trying to get the information from, I don't know, a crypto exchange that you used, or the airline or the hotel that you used. Why are they giving him this data? Are they just saying, you're a law enforcement agent in some other country, here's Luda's data? Like, how exactly is this happening? Are they making some kind of official request? Are they hacking, or how are they doing this?
No, this normally happens through official requests, and it can be just not even accusing you about anything. It just can be information request. So they said, we suspect that this person potentially can be involved in cybersecurity crime, or potentially can be involved. There is no evidences, right? There is no decision in the court. The thing of these regulations created by Financial Action Task Force, that they're preemptive, right? So they want prevent, but at the same time, because there is no due process, it's so easy to abuse, because how are you going to stop it? And
because people are doing, it's like the colloquial term people use, like a fishing expedition, right? They just sort of think, oh, look, these 20 people, they might be doing something wrong. Give me all the data you've got on them. And then boom, now I've got Luda's, home address and where she's traveled, which hotels, which airline, whatever, all this stuff.
And then on the basis of this information, it's easy to those countries actually to fabricate case, because it looks more legitimate, because they have already your data. So they can actually attack you way more, with way more credibility, and this is also dangerous. In many cases, but for example, we learn, but unfortunately I cannot disclose the names of these companies, how it happened. So they were quite successful as a company doing something with new technologies in US, and they cannot understand how their competitors in other country, where there was also a planned investment, got all their customers, all their, suppliers and many other things. The thing is that there was international request for information, not even accusation about anything. And all this data flowed. So it's dangerous also from business perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
You cannot stop
and
because so you will never even know about it.
Right. And they can either they can sort of trace the fiat money flows, or ask for other information and sort of pull the information together. And it's important to note here, look, of course, Bitcoin and internet privacy technologies, people can be using whatever, VPN and Tor and I2P and whatever. And then on the Bitcoin side, they can be doing PayJoin and CoinJoin and, all the
But we need to know how to use it. And other people who actually exposed to this, right?
Right. But my point is, even if you did all the quote unquote right privacy things, they can still pwn you because, when you fly, they need your passport. When you check into a hotel, they ask for your passport. Like, it's just not... it's one thing to get, let's say, the digital privacy side of it. Even if you hypothetically got that correct, there's all these, real world places that you interact that they can get information on you that way.
Yes. Yeah. To have this kind of protection, like in my case, the judge and police of Belgium, they really look into the case and defended not to transfer automatically my data, but to protect me. And actually write it in decision of the court that this is clear abuse and weaponization of these important instruments, right?
The lead sponsor of this show is Bold, the best place to buy, sell, and save Bitcoin. For listeners in the US, Bold lets you secure your financial future with complete peace of mind by integrating a low-fee, Bitcoin-only brokerage with next-gen multi-sig vaults. With Bold, you can smash buy Bitcoin or set a DCA plan for only 0.99% fees and seamlessly deposit the Bitcoin direct to your Bold vault. The Bold vault is a 2 of 3 collaborative multi-sig where you hold 2 keys and Bold holds 1 as a redundant backup, protecting against loss or theft. You can use Trezor, Ledger, or Cold Card hardware wallets to spin up a Bold vault in just a few minutes, and the Bold vault is the only collaborative custody vault available with 0 monthly fees. They're also offering 0 fees on your first $10,000 of Bitcoin buys and $25 of free Bitcoin when you buy $100 of Bitcoin or more. Try Bold today and upgrade your stacking experience over at getbold.io. And now, back to the show. Gotcha. Now, let me steel man for a sec. Now, of course, I'm pro abolishing FATF and abolishing AML laws altogether, but let me steel man for a second. What if the argument is, well, look, Luda, there have been these kidnapping cases in France, and the legal authorities need a way to try to trace down the criminal masterminds who did the kidnappings in France or whatever. Is there some legitimate law enforcement, even if you're a libertarian against the state, but is there some kind of legitimate argument for being able to have some form of a law enforcement person request data from a third party?
So we need to distinguish there two things. First, effectiveness of the current anti-money laundering framework, cybersecurity framework. We don't see data how effective it is, and we're requesting it constantly. We see impact for human rights, we see impact for businesses, And we are really not satisfied with it. From other side, we see that there is not enough funding. Even like when I was communicating with police or judges, they don't have enough technology and funding being able to process these cases as they should be. So what I would encourage actually to give more resources for them, literally to give capacity for police and judges and prosecutors to do proper investigation. Not just, put everybody by assumptions that every single technology, new technology, how FATF claim, can be a tool for money laundering, cybersecurity crimes, or any kind of crimes. Everything can be potentially, but so what? We want to ban everything? How are we going to develop? It's not the way how we can actually live as societies. It's China style of rules, and it's China style that you basically assume that every citizen committing crime. No, we need to distinguish those who committing crime, and we need to have instruments to stop it. And people who actually have capacity as a police, as a judge, as a prosecutor, we have these distinguishes and division of the powers exactly because this will help us to get justice. What we see right now, financial institutions, banks, crypto exchanges, now hotels, travel agencies, they have to share your data on immediate request. They have no capacity. They have not police. They are not judges. They're not prosecutors. They cannot judge if I'm criminal or not, or if I'm a person who is actually targeted in a political way. They cannot. And they were delegated these functions, which is extremely dangerous. And that's why I think that total failure from the side of Financial Action Task Force to propose this kind of recommendation. The same as a function of Interpol. It's stated to be as the main police organizations to prosecute criminals. Right now is the main tool, again, based on and build on anti-money laundering regulation, build on combating cybersecurity crimes. It's the main tool how to prosecute people transnationally. And this is a fact. It's not effective anymore because authoritarian states cooperate closely and they weaponize every single transparency from the Western countries. This is where we are right now.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. So what can be done about this? Is it a matter of trying to change the local legislation? Is it a matter of trying to defund FATF? What can be done and by who?
Both activists right now, like I think Bitcoiners already understood that their voice quite significant value and impact for not only US, but also abroad also, right? Globally. And, but first, of course, we need to fix everything in US. That's why I really focus right now on all of our advocacy in the US. And there is a lot of pro-privacy legislators and regulators in US right now. We need to give them as much as possible power. So their proposals, for example, like Financial Integrity and Regulation Management Act, or for example, a Countering Transnational Repression Act, where this definition of transnational financial repression or fact that people can be de-risked, debunked, deprived the right to have financial services is actually articulated. And what's exactly a reason for this articulated, right? We need these acts became reality, became a remedy against this kind of abuses. And we need to have journalists on our sides. We need to have as much as possible bloggers. So, and of course, constituency. So Bitcoiners are constituencies for every single legislator right now. Your voice will be heard, but speak out, speak up and ask questions. What interest actually protect FATF right now for me? I know about this and these violations. It's documented. It's not theoretical. It's decisions of judicial system of Belgium. It's fact that there is transnational repression on US soil against American investors. What has done to protect him and his family? These are questions we need to ask and we need to get answers. And more specific we are, more effective we are.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm reading from you there is that, let's say, American, especially in this case, American listeners can try to put, let's say, pressure on their local advocates, or let's say lawmakers, to try to change some of the laws around this so that FATF, FATF's pronouncements can't be weaponized by foreign agents or foreign criminals to leverage that against, let's say, American citizens and the privacy of American Bitcoiners as well.
Even proxies. Look, in my case, what I documented, it's these secret agents try to pretend ordinary citizens, protecting their children's rights, right?
Right.
So imagine how it's sophisticated. And former agent from France helped them to file this complaint, a criminal complaint against me in Belgium soil. to get my data from US. So you see, it's really complicated. It's not that it's really complicated. They take this effort if they want to, but it shows how for them it's easy and what way they used if they want somebody.
Yeah, interesting. And so I think the fundamental problem is that these laws have created this environment where all of us are vulnerable, and the pretext, it's sort of said that these laws are to keep you safe, little citizens. You should all just be comfortable giving up all your data every time you fly, every time you stay at a hotel, every time you do almost anything. And it's it's sort of sold to people as, oh, you need to do this for your safety, but then at the other hand, it's also being weaponized against you for activities that are harmful to either your business interest or your safety as an individual or as a family or a business.
Yes, exactly. Enough if you criticize somebody and somebody would not happy about it, right? And then your travel data, communication data, and financial data shared. You exposed.
Gotcha.
How
okay,
you
so look,
protect
let's make sure listeners know what to do. What are the best ways for them to help you out here? What are you asked? What's the ask from listeners?
My ask is to be active, because once you're a constituent, I'm happy to coordinate this action. So reach out and we will coordinate our actions, who is the best legislator to approach, how we actually can build this bipartisan coalition and what we can do. So we basically need these calls as much as possible, raise awareness about this problem in US.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, listeners, I know some of the listeners out there are really strong, focused on privacy advocates. So for you out there, make sure you share this out there into your circles. And of course, we'll put the links in the show notes for people to reach out to you, Luda. So Luda, thanks for joining me and helping raise awareness about this issue.
Thank you, Stefan. And thank you everybody who joined us.